And our next keynote panelist is Martin Frick. Unfortunately, Martin had an urgent clash in his schedule related to his current role as Deputy of the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Food System Summit 2021. He sends his apologies and best wishes for our conference, but luckily he prepared a short video message, which we will be sharing right now.
My name is Martin Frick. I'm currently Deputy to the Special Envoy for the UN Food System Summit in 2021. Before that, I have been serving many years as the Senior Director of UNFCCC, and I'm in the climate process since 2007, having been to basically every single conference of the party ever since. For the framing of this conference, I want to do a couple of remarks. Whenever I have seen success in the climate negotiations, I think there are two key factors here. One is to have the personal trust of a small but influential group of negotiators. No matter the topic, but in the end, you need to have a network of people you simply trust. There's negotiation positions, there's tactics, there's strategies, there's all of that. But when it really comes to the inner hardcore of negotiations, you need to have built the trust that if somebody tells you this is a red line, I cannot go there, that this is actually something you respect and you can expect that the other person is respecting that as well. This trust is difficult to build, and often it takes years of shared personal experiences, and it takes all of the things that are happening outside the conference room normally. It's the informal chat, it's the coffee, it's bumping into each other by coincidence somewhere in the city to build that. I see it's difficult to do that in the digital world because there is no coincidence. You're going into a meeting room because you want to. You don't have the benefit of serendipity that you often have in real life situations. So here's a question. Can we create digital serendipity? How would that work? Can we randomize meetings? Can we get people together who would not speak together in a professional setting? The other bit for successful negotiations is the political awareness. And we simply cannot overestimate what Fridays for Future and all of the young people have done on this end. Because the climate negotiations have been built in a sense, in a way that is so difficult to understand, that is so full of jargon, that has a gazillion subcommittees and meetings and agenda items and acronyms that nobody does understand. So like in Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale about the emperor's new clothes, it's the young people that are needed to come in and say, look, the problem is not so difficult. There's too much carbon here, there's too little carbon here. What are you going to do about it? And the simplicity of the question is not oversimplifying. It's just bringing the negotiations back to what they should actually serve at. And here's a big problem in all of these international processes. They tend to develop a life on its own. They tend to develop their own logic, where in the end, and I have been there as well, you're even celebrating something as a big breakthrough and success, and half a year later, you don't even understand what was so wonderful about it. So anchoring the negotiation in the real world, having fact checks, having people who actually hold you responsible is a core issue. And that is complicated. So what I'm dreaming about is a much closer connection between the very local, the people that work in a context, in a neighborhood, in a village, in a university, people who actually live and work together, and the global frame. Because on a global frame, the complexity is almost impossible to manage. But the most complex issues become manageable if you are looking at a landscape, if you are looking at a context in which you can really bring change. There are many attempts to bring people action and direct conversations of people on the ground into a UN process. The Food System Summit is trying to do that with decentralized conversations, with open-ended action tracks that are constantly asking for input. But I think it's one of the most interesting areas to further develop the UN and thus the negotiation process. And this is definitely something where a lot of movement is happening and a lot of good and new ideas are really welcome. And my last remark would be the digital options. I mentioned at the outset a bit critically that it's difficult to produce serendipity with digital media, but at the same time, you can basically set up a meeting with anyone on the planet on shortest notice. So our connectivity as individuals and communities is at a stage where it yet has to be understood what that really means for those conversations. Because all of the conversations, all of the diplomatic machineries basically stem back from a time where there was no other way to be represented in another country as having an ambassador there, having somebody who has a telex machine, so you have the means of communication. As of today, we all have our little telex machines in the pockets. We can video call with anyone on the planet. And what that actually could mean and does mean for diplomacy is something I think that we only slowly start to understand. So let me stop here, and I'm very sorry I can't be with you in person. I'll have a team retreat, and that is something I really cannot miss, but I wish you all the best for this conference, and I'm very eager to learn what you are coming up with. Thank you.